Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, genius economist, venture capitalist, and political analyst and strategist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the end of the summer's news headlines is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
Hello again. The people I love the most in this world. I really love you, and it's great to be back with you. Before we launch what is inevitably a podcast that is bound to depress you, because the news is always, as I tell you every week, the news, the headline news. I mean, some of the good news, maybe somebody made a big donation, like $100 million donation to a university or some medical cause. That's the good news. That goes in the midsection or the end of the newspaper or the end of the podcast. It's not a news breaking, interruption that the networks or the what are they called? The channels? Cable channels. Stop their regular programs to make announcement. Breaking news. So the breaking news is inevitably some terrible event, a mass shooting, a bus full of young kids that it turned over and 40 of them were killed, or an earthquake, or that just hit, or some major individual that was killed in an accident, something that's not uplifting. The spread of a new pandemic or something. So before I launch, we launch the podcast. Incidentally, one that I'm happy to have Len Carter back again with us. He is a phenomenal human being, a brilliant, outstanding genius who graduated at the top of every institution, at every educational institution, advanced institution as well, including Cornell, which is a top Ivy League school, Stanford, one of the top schools in the world in terms of the number of billionaires, creative, what is it called? Scientists and inventors, and what are they called?
Tech entrepreneurs.
Tech entrepreneurs stationed in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and Harvard Business School, my own alma mater, where I graduated from. And in every one of those schools, he graduated at the very top of his class. So it's a pleasure to have him. And he's just a nice guy and a wonderful human being. He does only good things for people. He's a super guy. So I have to impose on him, even though he's got a million things he's got to do. I have to impose on him to get him back as often as I can. So I'm very pleased that you're going to have the benefit, and I will have the benefit of enjoying his good attitude, his entertainment ability, his knowledge, and his wisdom. Len, welcome
Thank
again.
you, Morty.
And to
I've been away too long.
yeah, since last Wednesday.
No, it was,
Oh,
we had
yeah.
a couple other guests and a comedian in between and another football player last week. And
yeah, that's true. So he's back again. Welcome back
Thank
again. But I started off saying because the news is always depressing, and that's what we deliver every week because we talk about the week's events, and the major events of the week are inevitably and overwhelmingly bad news. So if I didn't find a way to uplift you in some way or prepare you for this on how you could overcome it or how you could be happy every day of your life, I wouldn't do the segment where I want to suggest the way for you to be happy in spite of the bad news. So, what I want to suggest, I suggested this many times before because it's very fundamental, and that is this very day, decide on something. Just don't let life happen to you. Just don't move ahead every day of your life thinking of events that occurred in the past or busy with nonsensical things or avoiding the necessity to deal with depressing issues that are unresolved. What I suggest is find something, determine something, a dream that you would like to have fulfilled, some activity that can bring you the fulfillment of an aspiration that you would love to I was going to say consume, but not consume, achieve. So, and make sure it's something that you thought of and you're sure you want to do it, and most importantly, that you have the ability, the talent, and all that it takes to actually achieve it. Because I always wanted to be a rock star singer, and my father actually hired one of the famous cantors at the time, and with a great, outstanding reputation for voice and teaching music and singing. Paid him a ton of money, more than he could afford, to give me lessons. I went 1 week for lessons, and the gentleman, the professional teacher and a great cantor, I spent 2 hours with him. I went back the second week, again spent 2 hours, more than 2 hours with him. And he was clearly a very ethical guy with great integrity and honesty. And following the second week, he came to see my father, and he said, Mr. Davis, Mr. Davidowitz at that time, still Mr. Davidowitz. He said, I want to tell you, I love getting the significant fees you pay me to teach your son to sing. and I hate to give him up. But I must tell you, in spite of the fact that I hate to give him up, that I don't want to take your money anymore because it's a total waste. There's no way that if I had 1,000 years, I could fulfill that assignment because your son has no ear for what I'm trying to teach him. He has no ability, voice-wise, to achieve that objective that you're looking for him to achieve. And I suggest that despite of my strong desire to keep getting those attractive payments that you're sending me after each week, I want to advise you to discontinue using my services. He was such a great guy. Very few people would do that in our sort of greedy society, money hungry society. One of the outputs, one of the consequences, one of the greatest negative consequences of capitalism. Capitalism is the best economic system in the world, but capitalism also, where the desire for money has come to exceed the desire for life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness, people do whatever it takes, and rarely do what that kid did with my father. So, without hitting this issue or this insight, make sure you pursue something that you have the capability, the talent to achieve, because otherwise it'll be even more depressing for you than your current state of depression. So my advice to you is it's important enough for you to spend a lot of thoughtful time to think about something you really would make you happy to accomplish, to achieve in your life. And then this very day, or as soon as you determine that, start working on it. The minute you take the first step, you'll start to be happier. And every time you go back after a day or whenever you go back to it later in the day, even if you had a bad day, as you start working on that dream aspiration, just taking the first step each time will uplift your mood and make you feel a lot better and a lot happier. So, yeah, a good example is, as I like to teach my students, is the story of Thomas Edison. A young man, Thomas Edison, as you may remember, was the inventor, the scientist, the great what was the word you said? Silicon Valley produces
Tech entrepreneurs.
Tech contribute. Tech breakthrough. Inventor of all times. So, absent Thomas Edison, we'd all be staying up late, if at all, because it would be so difficult reading by candlelight. And it just changed our life so immensely, so beneficially, and added to our ability to be happy after 8 o'clock at night or even on dark days. So this young man walked up to Mr. Edison and asked him, he was perplexed. He said, Mr. Edison, how come you failed 1,000 times, 1,000 times you failed, and you never gave up? So Mr. Edison responded to the young man, who told you I failed 1,000 times? He says, what do you mean? Everybody knows it. Everybody talks about it. It's common knowledge, you know? He says, well, common knowledge is apparently wrong. So he says, well, why does everybody know it? Why does everybody say it? He says, I don't know why they say it, but 1,000 times I succeeded in learning what didn't work. So while other people think of that as failure, every time I had another failure, I was uplifted because I had a clue of what I have to change or what I have to modify to achieve my ultimate goal. So the first thing is identify something that you really, really would love to do, an aspiration that if you achieved it would make you feel so phenomenal that it's worth whatever work you have to, whatever effort you have to exert to achieve it, just like Edison. So once you identify that, and again I say, within the parameters of your talents and your energy and your capacity, keep pursuing, launch that effort and keep pursuing it just as Edison did. Every seeming failure will bring you one step closer to success. So that's my best advice to you. It'll bring you much more, not happiness as people think of it, you know, when somebody gets drunk or is high on drugs, and it's laughing, it's funny and slapping everybody around him on the back. He seems so happy. That's not happiness. I'm talking about a lifetime of ever increasing and achieving exceptional, uplifting contentment. So where was I going with all this? I encourage you to, as soon as possible, launch on that campaign. First, to spend a lot of time and thought investment, thinking investment, to find out what that aspiration is, that dream, fulfilling that lifetime dream of yours is, and then start immediately thereafter to work and exert the effort to achieve it. And no matter how much you think you're failing along the way, if you're working on it and it's feasible, you'll get it done. So that's my jewel of advice that I want to start with, and which is part of the fabulous book that I wrote, even though I must say so myself, but other people have raved about when they call me or send me notes, how much it's been helpful to them in uplifting their lives and changing their kids' lives and their family lives as they read them. There's 365 pages, one page for every day of the year, that has the best advice in the world from all the great philosophers and thinkers and scholars since the beginning of civilization, and all the biblical teachings of every religion. And so I gathered all that in this one volume, 365 page book that you have if you're watching your screen where you see my picture, you see the book next to me. The name of the book is Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. Lower down on my screen, I don't see the bottom of the page, but it says How to Be Happy No Matter What. And this book, if you read even one page every day, especially if you read one page every day, it's not a book to be read as a novel all in one day or all in 1 week. Get the benefit and make the progress as you would studying some profession you want to achieve. You can't do it in 1 day. You have to learn and learn and learn. So my advice to you is if you buy this book, it's not the most expensive, most luxurious gift you can provide yourself, but I assure you it is definitely one of the most rewarding, fulfilling, and beneficial books or pieces of literature that you will ever experience or have the opportunity or the experience to enjoy and benefit from. I feel that so strongly because all the people, without exception, that have responded to me, maybe the ones that want to criticize it don't call me or write me, but all, and even big people, heads of corporations and professors at universities, the most successful people have called me and written to me and told me how beneficial it's been to them. So much so that I've decided to offer anybody who purchases this book or even receives it as a gift and sends me the purchase slip of that acquisition of the book, I will, and they're not happy and don't find that it does do what I'm telling you, uplift you, reward you, inspire you. I don't know what other adjectives to use. Pay for it many times over in the contentment and good feelings it can provide you, not only at the time you read the page or the weeks or days after, months after, but the rest of your life. And it will spread to your children and your wife or your spouse and all those that you love. So the deal, I'm confident, and I propose, I'm confident because of the feedback I've gotten from the people that purchased it or received it as a gift, how much it's helped them, how much it's benefited them, how much it's rewarded them, and the people that are closest to them and who love the most in their lives. So, in light of that, I introduced this amazing offer. You know, many times when you buy some supplement or some drug advertised on TV, it says if you don't find it beneficial or, you know, doing what I'm telling you, what we're telling you, you send us back the purchase slip. You can keep the bottle, you can keep the drug, and we will refund your purchase price. I'm going to do one better. If you acquire this book, pay for it, and you are not totally appreciative of it and experience what I'm telling you, benefit greatly from it, send back that purchase price, that slip with the purchase price. Your purchase price, or even if you got it as a gift from the whoever sent you that the book, send that purchase slip, and I will not only send you back those dollars, but double the amount that you paid or the person that bought it for you paid. So I don't know that you could ever get a better offer than that. And please don't buy 400 books and double your money that way. I'm depending on your integrity and honesty. But if you do it honestly and with integrity, I will instantly put a check in the mail to get double your purchase price back to you. So now, and do it right away. Don't wait. Don't wait a week or a month or anything. Soon as you can, in the next few hours or the next day or two at the most, run out. Don't walk out. Run out and acquire this book, Happiness Guaranteed. So now, without further ado, let me have our amazing, fantastic guest, Len Carter, launch the podcast. So again, without further ado, Len Carter, please launch it.
Thank you, Morty. Good to be back. So the summer is often a time, where people take it easy and you don't see a lot of big newsworthy events that happen. But in this day and age, there's never a vacation from activity, world events, and often significant world events. So we live in interesting times, so there's never a holiday for that. So a few things we haven't talked about in the last few weeks. We'll start overseas, I guess. We saw an interesting alliance emerging between China, Russia, and India, where they've been in the headlines and had we saw President Xi meet with Vladimir Putin. We saw, I think the Prime Minister of India met with either Xi or both Xi and Putin, I believe, in a summit.
Xi is being the chairman of the Chinese.
He and she. Both of them. Him and her. But, it's I think an alliance which, see if you agree, I think has been sort of spurred from some of the U.S. policies, including some economic policies on India, where the U.S. has imposed large tariffs on their imports to the U.S. We sanction Russian oil. So I think this is in part an effect from our own actions as a country. It shows you how every action has a reaction. Sometimes maybe not the ones that you thought, but between China, I mean, Russia is not a hugely populous country, but between China and India, I mean, is that half the world population? It's probably close.
Probably, yeah.
At least a third, maybe. So, what do you think of the motivations behind that and the potential fallout? Is there some, and then should the U.S. just stand idle or try to repair or improve change, maybe not improve, but change relations with some of these countries in order to prevent, this alliance piling up against you?
Obviously, we are excellent at bringing those countries together against the United States. In fact, they articulate this way, that the United States is just a big bully by imposing tariffs and by expanding their so-called defense expenditures so drastically and running military training sessions right around China and right around Russia. So we're clearly very good at bringing those people, those formerly, if not partners of ours, at least constructive interaction on trade, on other mutually beneficial activities. So,
I mean, I can understand, the argument. I can understand the argument, against Russia's aggression in Europe. Yeah. Okay, China, you want to believe that, they're not respecting intellectual property, and they have ambitions in the Pacific. But what's the beef with India? I mean,
what's the beef with China? I just spoke to the president of one of the very successful companies that I took public, that I did the initial public offering for, and he does a lot of traveling. And he mentioned to one of his friends that he was to China. He went to China. So his friend said, "What the hell are you going to that destitute, nothing country," and so forth. And he said, I had to respond that years ago I went to China, it was that way. But in my recent visits to China in the last few years, I am so impressed with China. It's like 50 times more advanced in so many ways, It has trains that go 250 miles, and they build new communities, housing and everything. And the brief and the most amazing abbreviated periods. And he says it's a lot nicer, he tells them, a lot nicer than going to major cities in the United States. He changed my view of China because he has no reason to say that. He's from the United States. He does all his business in the United States, but he visited China on some acquisition of product, but he wasn't talking about the product acquisitions. He was just saying, I can't believe, because I went there years ago and it was, really depressing. And today, and I looked at it and compared it to the U.S. cities, there's no comparison. It's miles head and shoulders above the United States. So we are obviously clearly brainwashed to have a perversive negative view of China, and they haven't attacked us. So they've never been in a war against us. So they don't. They likely have every right to be angry and feel that the United States is a big bully. They provided us with products at a fraction our consumers and Walmart and Home Depot and Target and Dollar Store with products that they make available to these companies can make available, these retailers and so forth, and to our manufacturing companies, the resources that they provide for them at such low, attractive prices. China doesn't force these manufacturers, major American industrial companies to buy their goods. They buy it because the prices are so compelling and so beneficial. And it's the same with Walmart and Dollar Store and Home Depot.
So do you see it as a if those countries see the U.S. as a bully and create their own anti-bully alliance, say, do you see that as a potential problem, threat, or danger to the U.S. down the road? We created this Frankenstein monster. In what form do you see the problem evolving into? Like what's the fear, or what could happen if we just continue to be a bully, let these other countries align against the bully? What's the danger? How does it play out?
It's not like we could avoid total interaction with those countries. Every day in our lives, they play a major role in the world. They're important countries. Not that Russia is such a big economy. It's not as big as California, for example.
Yeah.
California, I think, is if it was measured against countries, I think is maybe the third or fourth largest in the world. But it's important in politically and other economic ways. China is definitely a leading economy in the world after the United States, the leading economy in the world. India, less so, but still very important. So, what was the question?
What's the danger? What happened bad to the U.S. by letting this happen, by continuing to be a bully, and by encouraging these countries to align against you?
That they do whatever they can to frustrate our efforts to
So it hurts us economically because they'll stop buying our goods, or an arms race.
Reciprocal tariffs, penalties.
Certainly possible. So let's come back to the U.S.
What do you mean come back to the U.S.? We are in the U.S.
From our overseas discussion.
Okay. From
China, Russia. I don't know where was that? Where was the meeting between those? I don't know where those three.
I think it was in China.
Oh, they met in China. So domestic peace, domestic law and order is always an issue. Trump ran on that issue, making claims about cities being disasters and crime being rampant. And we saw his sending in federal troops to Washington, D.C. In that case, because DC doesn't have its own. It's not a state, so it doesn't have like a National Guard or whatever other states have. There's no governor to call in that. So Trump has a little bit.
And even if it did have it, they would not be inclined to use the.
Correct.
Because it seems like it's against the Constitution.
Right. So the question is, so because there's that ambiguity of what DC is and how it operates, I think it gave Trump a little leeway in bringing in those federal troops into Washington.
He doesn't need that.
Doesn't he?
The
What?
leeway. He's ready to bring it into
Well, that's
to
Chicago. So that's what I want. So
and other cities.
right. So
I
which
don't know
Governor Pritzker is
why
not happy.
Why you say Washington? So Washington allows.
Well,
to do that in Washington
because it's easier because there's no governor like Pritzker to mount a huge legal challenge.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that'll work. Maybe it won't. We'll see.
Interestingly,
he's not happy.
Interestingly, while they also, the political leaders and elected leaders in Washington voiced loudly their objection to this, the mayor, who was one of the loudest objectors to it, recently said, "Well, actually, it's helped because a lot of crime has been reduced, and as long as they're just supportive of our police, but don't intrude or
Right.
know."
I mean, from Trump's point of view, I think it was smart because it's hard for people to take a stand against lowering crime.
Yep.
I mean, how can you not be in favor of that?
Yeah, not take. It's hard for them to take a stand, nor do they wish to take any stand.
Well, yeah. So then, but they have to, because it's Trump. So you can't. If you're the governor of Illinois, you can't say this is great.
They may feel they have to because the interpretation of the Constitution is that he's actually doing something illegal, and it's in the process of being determined by the courts. It hasn't been ruled on.
So what do you think will happen in Chicago? You think there'll be a showdown, a court showdown? They'll send in the guard?
I think he will send in the guard.
Yeah.
And Pritzker and the mayor of Chicago will bring a lawsuit definitely against it, trying to prevent it.
Yeah.
Or if it actually occurs, trying to cancel
it. Will they win?
I never know these days. Look, I never would believe that somebody that's indicted 90 times is capable of running, and even more so of being elected president of the United States. So it's very hard to predict against Trump whether you like him or not. You can't. He's overcome things that were inconceivable.
Absolutely, for others. So on that subject of legal battles, and you never know how they're going to play out. So we saw this gerrymandering fight take place in Texas, where Texas Republicans were trying to redraw.
Just to describe briefly what gerrymandering is to those that aren't up to the knowledge that
each state, when a state gets allocated its number of representatives based on the census every 10 years, the state has the ability, the state legislatures have the ability to draw the districts in every state, and with each district electing the representative for the
design
the maps,
the voting map.
So this district elects a representative, this district elects a representative, and if you add up all the districts, you get the total number of representatives going to Congress from that state.
And also many of those districts, or most of those districts, are it's able for the governor or the state senator or whatever
The
to
legislatures.
identify whether they're Democrat or Republican.
Right. So the state legislatures, basically the equivalent of the House and the Senate in each state,
Whether
and then the
those-
governor,
Whether those districts,
they can decide. They can decide.
well, they can identify.
They can create
They can identify
the district.
They can identify, in most cases. I mean, in some cases it's so close it's not an issue. But in most cases, they can identify what the district is, what it leans towards, Democratic or Republican. And if there's a Republican governor at the time and legislature, they often or sometimes intrude on the gerrymandering
Right. So the trick is
process, even outside of the 10 years when it's traditionally done, to change the makeup of the borders of that
right. So
community, so more Democrats are sent into districts where the Democrats already overwhelmed and can thereby increase the number of, or the percentage of Republican votes that come out of that district if they move enough Democratic voters out of that district.
I mean, what you want to do, the trick is to create districts, because you can't, all voters have to be in a district, some district. So you create a district where it's heavily, say, Democratic, and you want Republicans, you load the entire district with Democrats, so that you give them one. And then on the other ones, you split it around so that you have 51% Republican and 49% Democrat, so that they just squeak by in that district. But it gives them the win, because the representatives determined by a majority or a plurality in that district.
Or more, what the governor of California is doing, and that is to reconstruct, rearrange some of those districts to move from Democratic to Republican by changing the borders of that district and having more Democrats move into or moving Republicans, if it's a dominant Republican district, moving them to another district that's already overwhelming Republican, so that the Democrats may even dominate, or at least be equal to, as Texas is doing, that precipitate, which action by that governor was precipitated by Texas' move to.
Well, it started even before that, when President Trump said to Governor Abbott, "Find me 5 more seats."
Yeah, well, that's
the
motivation.
The governor then
went
out in this exercise to see if they could rewrite the districts. The Democrats didn't like it.
Yeah.
They walked out, left the state, and created a huge brouhaha. The question is,
the governor threatened to have them arrested.
Should they be arrested? Is it right to walk out on your duty?
They've returned since.
I would say they should be arrested.
They should?
Yeah, because I mean, just because you don't agree, gerrymandering is not illegal. It's legal.
I don't know if I
And
don't
so
know
they're
if
not doing-
walking. I don't know if walking out is illegal.
Correct.
I don't know if it's illegal.
Well, I don't. I think.
I don't know that you could arrest.
I think you. I mean,
I-
well, then you
I-
could probably be removed from office because
I don't know.
you're derelict
I
of
don't
duty.
know. I don't know.
But
You may be right.
if
but
that's the case, I'm in favor of a harsh, even though I can appreciate the point that they're trying to make, that because yes, gerrymandering is legal, but there is something called the Voting Rules Act, which says you can't.
well, it's become irrelevant because they've returned.
Yes, except now are you setting off a gerrymandering war? Because now California does the opposite. All these other countries states do the opposite.
That didn't set up the war. What set up the war is what the governor of Texas was doing. That's what set up the war, not the congressman staying or leaving. That didn't set up the war.
I didn't say it did.
Oh, I thought that's what.
No, I said this process of doing gerrymandering in order to create more seats. We'll do it. So then now we're going to do it.
It should be done by some nonpartisan commission that would do their best to construct fair borders, so they're not configured just to ensure
and here's the
one
test.
one
Here's the
party
test
goes.
that I would use.
Yeah.
If you have a state that's say 60% white and 40% non-white, or let's say this, 60%.
Trump would say deport all the 40%
That's
that are
not
white.
But I think the test should be if a state has 60% Democrats and 40% Republicans, that the same percentage should be represented in their
district.
Congressmen or women sent to Washington. So if a state has 10 representatives, then 6 should be Democrats and 4 should be Republicans. It should represent the underlying percentage.
You can absolutely guarantee that.
Roughly. But if it comes out 8-2, then that's really off, and that says that there's been some games going on.
It should be done by a nonpartisan commission.
But how do you check if it's right? How do you what's the test to see if it's fair? That's what my test would be to look. Does it reflect the population?
You could even do it prior to the election by polls. They know if a district is, unless most districts are not clearly one or the other, but they know which ones are overwhelming.
Right, but if you look at the whole state, right, like if something's fishy, if you have a different percentage of representatives that you do the underlying.
That's ridiculous to attempt to correct.
I didn't say that, Morty.
No, I'm just telling you. I'm not saying you said it. I'm saying
you're talking to me, so I'm not sure who you'd be talking
to. That's what you suggest. It's done, and it's impossible to do that because
I don't know why it's impossible.
80% of Americans are for gun control, and these are.
No, but I'm actually agreeing that it should be done on a nonpartisan basis.
Okay, so then what are we discussing?
But how do you know if it's fair? That's what I'm saying. How do you know? The way you know it's fair is if it reflects the underlying population.
It's fair if a nonpartisan group, really nonpartisan group, does it. Right now, it's not done by a nonpartisan group. It's done by whoever is governor and the state legislature. I'm not saying, go to the end result and everything. Just start out with doing it in what seems fair. That to me, that's the closest thing you
So
could get.
if you don't do that, do you think that it's going to set off a gerrymandering war that we're going to
Well,
see?
so far, it looks like that. A race to the bottom.
Yes.
Each one is going to try harder than New York will do. One,
Right.
you know.
And I think the losers may be the Republicans, because there's more registered Democrats in the country, and if you can gerrymander everywhere,
But you're overlooking that there's more Republican governors and legislatures in the
right, but
desert.
they're in the smaller states with smaller representatives. So the biggest populous states.
That's right. That's why California's action is more critically important.
Right. I mean, you have Texas and Florida. You do have some big red states, but for the most part,
not by
for the most part, the gerrymandering, I think,
by the two that are already doing it, California is much better.
And if you add, if every state did it, suppose every state did it, who wins?
The Republicans.
I don't think so. I think the Democrats.
I just told you why. The Republicans governors are much larger, and the Republican legislators.
But they sit over a smaller number of representatives. So
you mean for the whole nation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama is going to be gerrymandered to the end.
Be. Yeah, that's what I say. It's a race to the bottom.
Right. For sure. So.
In life, when you're dealing with human beings, if you try to get anything perfect, you're dealing with something that is absolutely hopeless. If you get it close to right, if it accomplishes most of what you're trying to achieve, that's even a miracle. We're not a friendly species.
And we're always at war. So they have.
Why are we always at war? There's never, even when they say there's peace, there's at least 10 different wars going on in the world. Even when they say there's peace in the world, it may be small nations, it may be
because as much as we are alike as the human species, we see differences, right? I mean, if you can look, and this is a frequently used campaign. Let's look at what we have in common as opposed to what we have in difference.
Right.
But why are we always at war? I think just because people see differences.
What do we have in common? That we all eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
I mean, more than your skin is black and my skin is white, right? I mean, we both want to have a good place to live.
And I do.
I'm saying, but that's the problem.
But not all the
That's
nations
right, because they see differences.
A lot of whites
instead
are
of
not tolerant of.
That's right. Even though there's more, there's a lot of similarities you can find.
A lot of blacks are angry at that they have more African Americans and non-whites in the jails. They don't want to hear the statistics. They think it's bias. It's very hard to accomplish what you would like and I would like based on the statistics.
But let me ask you. Let me ask you your own question. Why? Why do people?
Because people have biases. What do you mean?
But why? But why do you go to war? It's because you.
Which war did Americans lose the most of their people in?
World War II.
Civil War.
No.
Percentage-wise.
You didn't say that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but percentage-wise, the Civil War was the most. So you say, why? Why couldn't they resolve it? They couldn't. because the South felt that slavery was perfectly all right. But they would,
No, but that's the fact. Yes, I agree. But I'm asking a different
the
question.
facts are irrelevant when it comes to.
I'm asking why. Why do people have those biases? Why?
Because
I agree they do. For sure, I agree they do.
culturally, they're brought up that way.
So it's
Why are people Christian and other people
so it's
Muslim?
it's just
their
a
culture.
perpetuation of history. It
If
doesn't
they
have to be.
do,
It just is
I'm
because of
asking
perpetuation.
does anybody get born and then do research and whatever it takes to arrive at what religion they're going to practice? No, it's all culturally. We are all formed by our parents first, our teachers, our community. So, it might be people. I always say if I knew everything that happened in your life, when you're sitting there at dinner and can make a decision from the menu, I would be able to, in 90% of the cases, predict your choice. If I knew everything, I told you one time a guy, I forget what the name of the book was, but anyway, in the first chapter, he points out and that there was an experiment he was involved in where they took two identical twins and put them on an island so they would not be influenced by anything else, and put them on that island. They figured then they could see if they would come out with all the same opinion because there's no external influence.
Who raised them? They themselves? Did they have a family, parents? Who raised those twins?
People that had no attitude. They don't care. They just feed them and clothe them. So within the first day, he said, they were both under, the sun was out, and they were 6 yards from each other or something. And one of them was exposed to the sun that day, and the other one, they didn't realize, was benefiting from the shade of the tree. That night, the one that was exposed to the sun had a fever and was burning up and in pain, and the other one, it's impossible to get exact duplication. That was his point. That's why I said, if I knew everything, if I knew most things, because identical twins brought up by the same parents, you would think would come out the same.
Right. I mean, I guess the
not.
question in hope.
They don't have the same experience because once they start school, they have different teachers. When they have different friends.
But if you believe that people have the biases from how they're brought up in their world, the question that we would ask and hope for humanity is, will that ever change? And
no,
I think I was going to say you'll probably say no because, and given your view of how the world will ultimately self-destruct because of its own.
Not only that, I'm going by our experience since the beginning of mankind. It's hard to predict against some trend that's overwhelming, unless there's some major, maybe some atom bomb exploded and people were inclined or inspired to change their values and their views and so forth. It could change, but that's near impossible.
Well, going full circle, you did say that it would be a depressing conversation on the news and headlines of the week, and you were right. Because now on that not so upbeat note, we can finish for the week.
Every once in a while, I'm like a busted clock.
So
twice a day I get it
hopefully,
right. But our time is over.
Yes.
We're not going to expose our listeners to any more tortures.
Yes. We have
anyway,
a whole nother.
Thank you for joining us this week. I love you all. You're my most precious associates in this world, my most precious and valued cohorts. So I want to wish every one of you a wonderful week. To you, your children, your spouses, and all your loved ones. God bless you, and I look forward to being with you and sharing this podcast again next Wednesday night at 6:30.